For years now, there's been discourse around the game being too physical, and it seems like maybe there has been an overcorrection. Could you just kind of walk through what you've learned in your reporting?
Yeah, I think I would characterize it as like a response to a crisis, and everyone is adjusting to that response, which is basically, I think anyone who follows the game probably picked up on the fact that last year it seemed like the concerns over officiating and physicality really kind of hit a peak.
Fucking awful.
It was determined they had to do something, and so they had this task force over the offseason that was looking at the state of the game, where they had different stakeholders from, coaches, players, league officials, referees, talking about what they wanted to do. And they came out with some points of education for referees, for teams, on how things would be called a little differently this year. And the big thing there is freedom of movement. 7-8 years ago, the NBA went through its own thing with deciding to emphasize freedom of movement for referees. The thing that struck me the most about looking at the video series that the league put out describing kind of how they want things to be called here is that it's really freedom of movement across the board. Like, this isn't just about ball handlers. This isn't just about one area of the court. This is, on ball, off ball, on the perimeter, in the paint, really trying to emphasize that there's not supposed to be growing physicality in any of those areas that's hindering the speed, the cadence, the rhythm, the balance. As we've seen that unfold over the opening weekend, I think it's clear everyone's still adjusting to that, which I think is true of, certainly teams, but also refs themselves. So if you look at the number of fouls that you had in the average game last year, the average team got called for 17 fouls a night. That's up to 22 in this first weekend. I think we see that probably resolve itself a little as time goes on, as refs adjust to what they're calling, as players adjust to what's getting called. But yeah, for this weekend, it did feel like a pretty dramatic uptick. In some games more than others. I think anyone who watched Wings Fever probably felt like that whistle was getting blown pretty frequently. Mystics Liberty, certainly ton of fouls in that one, multiple players fouling out. I think just kind of looking for consistency and understanding across the board is kind of the next piece of this puzzle.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously the discussions around the physicality of the game have been really loud. These counter response has not been as loud, but I think for players, like I saw Maddie Kenny had a story with Jonquel Jones who talked about how it's been difficult for her. Like, I think for certain players who are more physical too, like this is not going to benefit their game, and there's going to be some players who's maybe do benefit from these rules.